I'm Katie Parla. Let's make Sicilian style meatloaf, known as polpettone here in Italy, for my book Food of the Italian Islands. Polpettone, which means a very big meatball. It is meatloaf, essentially. And I'm taking you down south to Sicily, my ancestral homeland, though you'll be excited to learn polpettone is not exclusively Sicilian. You can find it in Abruzzo, you can find it in Rome. What's special about a lot of the versions of this very large meatball is that when you slice it open, it's not just meat. It's got a hard-boiled egg in there. Well, kind of like a series of hard-boiled eggs wrapped in the meat. That's what we're gonna do today. In classic Italian style, we are taking those eggs beyond the point of being soft and delicate. They're gonna be springy and chewy. The yolks are gonna have that like kind of silver halo. If you don't kind of get into that hard-boiled egg vibe, that is the hard-boiled egg that's been taken way beyond perfection to, one might say, a disgusting place, which is definitely my vibe, then just cook the eggs less, because they're gonna cook inside the meatloaf. What I'm getting at here is that there's eggs inside this meat thing, okay? We're basically making some meatball mix. So I've got a mix of pork and veal. To that, I'm gonna add eggs, some pecorino. You could use grated caciocavallo. I'm gonna chop up this parsley, but first I need a little bit of time for the breadcrumbs to absorb this milk, so it's going in. This is, it's actually panko. I know the recipe in Food of the Italian Islands says use a country loaf. I don't have that. You just basically wanna have like very coarse breadcrumbs that you moisten with a little bit of milk. That's gonna bring a nice soft texture and flavor. This needs a little more liquid. Yeah, so nice. And so I'm just gonna set these aside, maybe a little more milk. If there's too much milk, then you could just squeeze it out, either of the chunks of bread that you use or the coarse breadcrumbs. I'm staying away kind of per usual from the superfine breadcrumb. What the superfine breadcrumbs would do would be like absorb liquid rather than actually contributing something to the mouthfeel, if you will. Okay, so I'm gonna set these guys aside and then chop the parsley. This is, I just have a bunch of parsley. I picked it. You can totally leave the stems in. The stems have great flavor. This is just a choice from this morning's prep to get rid of those stems. But we don't have to be fussy. This is a freaking meatloaf. You don't have to be precious about it, not one bit. And this is just gonna become a little flurry of herbs in there, because otherwise where exactly is the fiber coming from? Not the meat, not the egg. So we've got our parsley going in. Nice, almost none of it got on the floor. Pecorino Romano. Any like savory grating cheese is gonna be fine. I just prefer to use Pecorino Romano in this case because it allows me to bring my love of Sardinia into the mix. Now, you're probably saying, Katie Parla, Pecorino Romano's from Rome. Well, actually, no, it's not. I mean, its origins might be here, but 97% of it is made in Sardinia, which, if you get my book, Support the Cause, you'll learn is my favorite place ever. So we've got Pecorino Romano that may or may not be made in Roman suburbs, but is probably from Sardinia. We've got our parsley, we've got our meats. What's next? Eggs. So these are just regular old organic eggs. The yolks are not quite as orange as the ones that you'll find for like making pasta sfoglia, where you want like a really red yolk almost. What else is going in there? Ah, salt and pepper. The co-star of the show. I might need a little bit more salt than that. We'll see. I like really coarsely ground black pepper, so I've just adjusted the grind with this little knobby thing. But if you like it fine, that's cool too. Just don't use that pre-grated or pre-ground stuff. That doesn't have any flavor at all. I'm just gonna do a few grates of this. Not everybody loves nutmeg. I happen to love nutmeg. Well, that's unfortunate. Ow. So I'm putting in quite a lot of grates there. That was like 10 or something. If you like warm spices, you can also throw in some cinnamon, freshly ground again. None of that pre-packaged stuff. We're gonna take a few more minutes for that milk to absorb. I'm gonna add the breadcrumbs and we'll be ready to roll. Time has passed. Yeah. Oh, these are so soft. I love it. So actually this pile of panko, this is an alliterative show today. The pile of panko has absorbed the milk, so I don't need to wring out any of the liquid. And what I'm gonna do now is just massage all these ingredients together. So sometimes it makes sense to get a larger bowl than you think you might need. I goofed. I got this beautiful ceramic painted bowl from Gerace in Calabria. I got it in 2 sizes. This size and the size that would have been appropriate for mixing all this stuff without things falling out. You know, Katie Parla does her best to be precise, but it doesn't always work out. Apropos of niente, I just want to give a shout out to my girl Claudia Trezza of Petsy, who has provided today's wardrobe. Petsy Roma is a beautiful, awesome, lady-owned business based in Monteverde. So I can walk to Petsy headquarters in 3 minutes. And it's just a delightful, delightful brand. And if you're into like food or Italian things in general, people always say, don't overmix, don't knead your meatball mix too much. I've never listened to those people, but I think the polpettone is fine. Now it's time to roll this polpettone. So I'm just going to turn the meat dough out onto a piece of parchment. Now I've got my cooking vessel here because I want the polpettone to reach just before the ends. I'm going to just kind of work this into a rectangle, keeping in mind that I've got to layer it with some filling. So prosciutto and then eggs. And I've cut the ends off the eggs so that when they're lined up, they fit well together. And then there's also like the added benefit that you have little like egg end snacks, which may be the best part of the egg. I could live without yolks most days. Maybe it's because my Italian-American side has forced it into me that I must overcook eggs until hard-boiled eggs have this kind of silvery halo around the yolk, creating a very chalky interior texture. So if you're thinking like a really gooey, supple yolk that's been cooked for 6 minutes, that's not what we're doing. We're doing the Sicilian overcooked egg filling. That's what's up. So this is like roughly rectangular. I'm gonna maybe steal some meat from here. And now I'm just blanketing this with some prosciutto. You might have to fold over some part of the prosciutto because I want to have an uncovered portion at the top. That way when I roll, the meat will be sticking to meat rather than having the prosciutto that will kind of like inhibit the closure from really working. Cool. Other things you can put in here if you want. Cheese, but it's got to be like a really like rollable cheese. Hey, if you're an Italian-American person and you've done like an antipasto spread with all those little cheese cigars, you know what I'm talking about. But like a really easy to roll provolone, and that you would put on top of this. Or, I mean, I know this sounds insane, but in Sicily, I've even had this with sottilette, which is kind of a beautiful way to say craft singles. So think about what you like, what you've got in the fridge. You don't have to get fancy here. In fact, a lot of Sicilian cooking, while there is an incredible wealth of fantastic ingredients, often like the melty cheese parts that you find, whether it's in arancine or, bracciole from Messina, use like really bargain basement cheese that melts perfectly, but is not gonna win any like global dairy awards. If you've gotta choose, get good meat, and then the fillings you can kind of like be a little bit more flexible with. Would I put like a ham from like the Nebrodi Mountains in Sicily in here? hell to the no. That you eat on its own. You don't stuff it into a meatball. But this is just like very classic, average prosciutto. I've got these eggs, and I cut the ends off so that they line up. Ugh, they smell overcooked in a great way. I love everything about this, and I refuse to allow it to be called inferior. This is so gorgeous. So I've got the eggs in their little roll at the end. I've got the parchment paper, and I'm just gonna use this to kind of create a tight roll. And I'm rolling. And in the great land of Italy, a place I adore, there are some questionable choices in the parchment department. So the parchment paper that I'm using is sold in pre-cut lengths. How silly is that? I would want a longer piece of parchment, and that way I could be more in control of this roll. Control of the roll. You can see the seam here. I want to do like a little bit more rolling so that I just want to close this meat roll at the ends so that it stays inside. Pro tip is to, like, before you roll this, throw it in the fridge, and that way like the meat and fat kind of tighten up, and it makes it a little bit easier to roll and to transfer. Nailed it. Okay, so this is actually like a little bit longer than I wanted it. That's what she said. Because like it's kind of stuffed into the ends here. What happens if we transfer? You know what? This is like 1 centimeter longer. You know what the meatloaf doesn't like? Being moved around this much. I'm just gonna like drizzle over a little bit of olive oil. It doesn't really need it, there's enough fat, but I just got this freshly pressed olive oil from Umbria. I just love the way that it smells and I wanna use it. I wanna have a little egg snack. And then put this in an oven, 350? 350, I'm told. That's 175 Celsius, 350 Fahrenheit. So this baby's gonna go in, gonna roast it, and then when it starts to kind of like brown on the outside, get that beautiful golden color, then I'll take it out. I'm gonna have to wait, because that's the move with meat. You don't eat it right out of the oven. That's crazy. And then I'll cut it, and you'll see the beautiful cross section with those hard-boiled eggs. So cute. The polpettone is done. I let it rest for 20 minutes. You never want to mess with meat unless it's had a little time to rest. Okay, I did it. And there's a little bit of sughetto in here, a little oily, fatty juice. So I'm gonna save that to pour on top. But for now, this is going on the back burner. So it's so beautiful. It's nice and brown on the outside, a little crusty, and the end part is my fave. Each piece has a little bit of egg in it. Oh, that's so nice. I love it. Oh, she's a juicy one. All these meat juices are going right on top. But you know what she needs? A little bit of this Quintaluno oil. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So, we've got our polpettone as promised, the silver halo of the overcooked Sicilian egg, which is my favorite thing. This smells incredible. Is this my favorite food? It just might be. So this is the good bite. A little bit of egg, some prosciutto, that super juicy meatball. This is a very excellent polpettone. So you saw the basic steps. If you want to get creative, do other sort of casings around the egg. You can do green beans in season. It's wintertime in Rome, so I'm not going to do that. But you can do all sorts of fun things, and you get this nice visual in addition to a delicious flavor. So that's been polpettone from Food of the Italian Islands. Like and subscribe.